Hey folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another direct to YouTube special. This one brought to you by Caleb W, who donated to see Pest Control in action, a deck of his own creation. So we're playing with a blue-black control deck today built around Sedgemoor Witch, which is an awesome card. Very good in both Legacy and Vintage, and I assume elsewhere as well. Like, the menace just means it gets through as a pseudo unblockable creature. You try to remove it, you pay some life, like a lightning bolt worth of damage there. Every time you cast a spell, you get one of these sweet pest tokens. So, like, it ends up being this pseudo monastery mentor go wide card that also has a weird amount of other utility associated with it. While we're not trying to go infinite with this, we are trying to get sick value. The Magecraft mechanic says whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell. So we can do some pretty cool things with our own Flusterstorms to make a whole bunch of pests. Supplementing the rest of this shell, we see Gurmag Angler as our other big finisher. Although we have a Brazen Borrower and a couple of Snapcaster Mages and Baleful Strix as well to go and round things out. As far as game one situations go, I'm a little bit worried about Uro. We have one Cling to Dust here to go and help out with that. Otherwise, we're kind of at a bit of a disadvantage versus Uro just playing this deck. Luckily, a lot of competitive players are going towards playing blue-red Delver right now rather than Rug Delver. So while we'll still see Uro in some control decks, we're not seeing it nearly as much in the Delver decks right now. As far as the sideboard goes here, I made a couple of small changes to what the donor originally submitted. So for example, there was a gate to Phyrexia in there. I think I borrowed one before I made this change, so I can even show you what that does. So there was a gate to Phyrexia in here. It's an enchantment for black that you can sacrifice a creature to destroy target artifact. You can activate it during your upkeep once per turn, and that's super cute with the pest tokens. But I thought this was just too slow, despite the synergy that it has with the deck list, so I just replaced that with a Brazen Borrower. I think I made one or two other minor changes, but I don't remember what they were. I like the overall plan that's here. Because we have a very stable and solid mana base, we can afford something like Back to Basics out of the sideboard to help with, say, the Cloud Post decks, and we just have a lot of good generic cards that we can board in. I am on the fence about whether or not something like Feed the Swarm is actually good. Like, the life loss associated with your removal spells is a bit rough when you're facing down the aggressive power of something like Blue-Red Delver. So I'm skeptical about this card, but, destroying a Sylvan Library is big game at the same time. So we'll see how this plays out. As far as niche things to be aware of with the deck list, we do have an Unearth, which can be a really cool way of bringing back Sedgemoor Witch after our opponent kills it, and can do very, very cute things with a Snapcaster Mage. And similarly, we also have a Mystic Sanctuary as a bit of recursion. One thing of note here, we do have a couple of basic swamps, really more than a couple. So I'm not sure what proportion of the time the Mystic Sanctuary is actually going to be turned on and good. In fact, I almost want to just sub that out for another land right now. Like, we have 4 basic swamps. Yeah, hold on. Okay, now we have 4 Underground Seas instead. Notably, that 4th Underground Sea is something that does not interact well with Back to Basics, but we already have a whopping 8 basics in this deck. I think that should be fine as a whole. Overall, I'm excited to give this deck a try. We'll see whether or not we come across an Uro weakness. It seems like we have a decent amount of interaction on various fronts. We have 6 main deck force effects plus 3 Flusterstorms. That should probably make us okay versus combo, even though we don't have something like, say, Discard that you normally might expect from a blue-black deck. Anyway, if you're excited for this one, please throw me a like or a comment. Those sorts of things really help out a lot with the algorithm and get more eyes on my content. And if you end up wanting to try this one out later, remember the deck list information as well as donation information is always available in the video description. Let's battle. Okay, I've kept a solid opening hand that has the ability to, maybe dig for a business spell of some kind, play Baleful Strix onto Brazen Borrower. Brazen Borrower is good against a fair deck. I want 4th land drop. Having a fetch line is fine, so I can shuffle away an Underground Sea. I think I am good with this. Super technically, I suppose I should have drawn the land in case my opponent thought seizes me and specifically wants to take Brazen Borrower. Niche, but, you know, probably important. Alright, so my opponent ponders back. They're on an island mirror. I'm just gonna grab basics. I already have Brainstorm, though. Maybe I should have just played Underground Sea this turn. I was thinking about wanting to play around um, a Wasteland effect, even though I don't expect that after this opener. This may just be a game where, like, I am turning creatures sideways. Probably can't play Gurmag Angler this turn. Next turn is possible, depending on what my sequencing looks like. I am slightly worried that my opponent is playing a combo deck. After just 2 cantrips, nothing that impacts the board or my hand or anything. I think I'm going to go ahead and Brainstorm here. And just put some lands back into my deck. This stuff's fine. I'm going to assume that Eliminate is not great, and that one of my lands is not great. I can technically start getting into Gurmag Angler territory next turn. Might involve exiling a Cling to Dust, though. I find it maybe most likely that I'm playing against something like a Show and Tell deck as of right now. I obviously don't know for sure yet, but I'm getting serious combo vibes. I think I'm at the point where I can just safely fetch an Underground Sea and be fine with that. Fine with Clinging? I'm probably fine with Clinging. Becomes a little awkward if my opponent is specifically Ant. Alright. What is pitching to Force of Will? Like, is it Brazen Borrower? Is it Ponder? I want to use Ponder to look for Flusterstorm specifically. Probably. I'm just going to go ahead and shuffle that. He's so good. He's so good. All right. So now I'm going to have a very large threat in the form of Gurmag Angler. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I fetch, I can have 6, leave open 2 mana rather than 1. That's fine. I don't think this game is going to get to the point where I want to flash back a Cling to Dust anyway. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, we'll leave it in there, but I don't think that's something I want to be doing. All right. Now I have Force of Will plus Flusterstorm available. Maybe we'll get a second color out of my opponent here. Black. Could be Doomsday. Could still be Storm. My opponent fetches, I'll have them on a 2-turn clock if I can put Brazen Borrower in play. I can attack for 6. And I can attack for 9. That's 15. Um, I'm definitely worried since my opponent hasn't done any discard yet. Or are they just waiting? I don't know if their hand is just weak or if they're trying to find the perfect spot and their hand is actually quite strong. All right, all therapy resolves. It probably names Force of Will. I still have Fluster if it does solve. Fatal Push. Interesting. Oh, I see. So they want to Seagate Stormcaller, copy it, and then use Cabal Therapy to shred the remainder of my hand. That's fine. Brainstorm would be cool now. Prismatic Vista, less cool. Give my opponent perfect information in exchange for making my future brainstorms better and cling to dust more live? I think so. I don't know exactly what my opponent's deck is doing. Like, are they actually a Nick Fit deck and I just haven't seen the green yet? Okay. They are a Sedgemoor Witch deck. Obviously, I respect it given circumstances. So we want to attack prior to casting this Brainstorm. Which, by the way, good on me for playing the fetch last turn and putting myself into this situation. Alright, so I'll put back land, fetch. And now mommy and daddy are fighting. See if this just goes down without a fight. Alright, so there's a Force of Will. I can just hardcast a Force of Negation here, or I can Fluster. I want to have this Snapcaster in my mage for next turn, and my opponent knows about Flusterstorm for Cabal Therapy based reasons. I think I go ahead and Fluster. Alright, so my opponent got good value out of their Witch. Now, another thing that I do potentially just have is flash in Snapcaster Mage as Ambush Viper and just attack with it. If I do that, I'm representing 3 damage, but I open myself up a little bit more to something like a Fatal Push. I think I don't want to do that. Yeah, nice. Now I can go for Snapcaster Mage, Fatal Push the Pest token, and go for lethal this turn with Force of Will backup. Do I need to? Can I just attack? Can I just attack my opponent to 2, not go for lethal this turn, and just be in a better spot overall? Probably. Yeah, let's not go for it. I just feel quite ahead. I think the Gurmag Angler is going to be hard for my opponent to answer. And if I can hard cast some of these spells, that's cool. Even with the Pest dying, I can just still have lethal with a Snapcaster Mage next turn if that's something that I want. I can't Fatal Push that currently. Just get you out of the way. That's fine, I suppose. Yes, that's okay. I don't remember if my opponent knows about the Force of Negation or not. Okay. So we get there in this pseudo mirror. So it looks like I want more ways to answer creatures if I can. And Plague Engineer on Pest seems clutch. Yeah, the Feed the Swarm versus Sedgemoor Witch seems rough, but I think I'm bringing this in. I think I want these 5 cards. The Flusterstorm game is here that we're going to be playing here is kind of weird. I don't think I need this Cling to Dust. Unearth is just my stuff, right? Yeah. Feel good. So I think my Force of Negations get slightly worse since I know my opponent is playing a bunch of Flusterstorms and I am too. I think I'm gonna go down on these and just have more answers to the things that actually hit the board and matter. I think I'm comfortable shaving a Preordain. And I go down 1 Fluster. Like my opponent has stuff that I reasonably want to counter, and is very good with my witches, and we can get into the horrible state of trying to Flusterstorm Flusterstorms. So that's a thing. I don't know, maybe I trim one of these since I'm going to tap out for Plague Engineers some portion of the time. I'm not sure if that's actually correct. But let's try this configuration. I don't think I want the Liliana's Triumphs. I also could shave one more and cantrip because I know my opponent has Hull Breacher. I'm fine keeping a hand with one land and this many cantrips. I think that's going to work out okay for me the vast majority of the time. It says something about Sedgemoor Witch that, like, so many people are trying it out in both Legacy and Vintage now. Sequencing. Slash, do I think that my opponent has Wastelands? Probably not, but there's a world where they do. I probably just want to Strix on two. Like, extract my value. And, like, make it so my Unearth becomes better. So if I just think that I'm going to play Strix on two anyway, I'm just going to grab a basic island. And I think a Preordain is fine here over Ponder. Yep. Great. So it's not like I have an insane combo with Sedgemoor Witch immediately or anything. But I have a lot of very, very reasonable cards in my hand. My Strix gonna get killed. My opponent is clinging to dusting. I guess that's fair since I have Snapcasters. Oh, Ancient Tomb. Alright, that's good value for my opponent. But you put that on Bird and not on Pest, so that's a thing. I think I just want to play my Witch this turn. And if it dies, it dies. If it doesn't die, oh. So notably, the Flusterstorms that both I'm playing and my opponent is also playing don't, like, counter the creatures, right? So, like, my opponent could very well have Flusterstorm open right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Some of the removal spells that we're playing, like Fatal Push, also don't necessarily just kill a creature outright. They require something else like a fetch land or a creature otherwise leaving play in order to be fully effective. Like, my Sedgemoor Witch still gets 3 life worth of value. Like, my opponent's at 12 because they have that Ancient Tomb. Life is still fine. What is this, though? Oh, another Plague Engineer. This is less fine because this one will go on Pest. I'll have to eliminate that one, and then I can play Unearth. Ooh, buddy. I'm just gonna hope this resolves. Like, I could ponder for a Force of Will first. I don't think I'm gonna do that. I also don't think my opponent has Wasteland in their deck anymore since they have Ancient Tomb. Is the Great Sedgemoor Witchmere. Really? Alright, now I'll just ponder, look for another answer to a creature. Ooh, my own Plague Engineer, though? My own Plague Engineer is pretty sick. My opponent has one card. Probably just shuffle this. Yeah, I'm happy enough with that. Like, I can just play 3 more Sedgemoor Witches, and if my opponent kills them, they die. Ace. Fatal Push is a little weird here in terms of sequencing. I do it like... I play my land drop. I can leave open the ability to both Ponder and Fatal Push. But I can't trigger Revolt on my own easily. Well. Unless they pay 3, huh? Well, I'm not paying 3. I don't have Revolt for Fatal Push this turn, so I can't kill that Plague Engineer. This is fine. This is on Bird, which is awkward. I want to go ahead and shuffle. Alright, awkward removal spell it is. Mystical Dispute. Oh, that's very awkward. I think I'm supposed to keep my Witch, but I lose 2 removal spells here. I do not wish to copy the spell, no. Thank you. Any spell would be superb. Thank you. I think I fire this off now. Specifically because I'd like to find just another Ponder and just, like, ram off another spell. Alright, I'll put Snapcaster Mage on top of my library. That's a great thing to have access to. I'll just make my land drop, call it a turn. My opponent does have this Cling to Dust that they can use, but I'm hoping that that will cost them 2 life off of Ancient Tomb. So these points of life that my opponent is gaining back from Cling to Dust, each one of them does represent 1 turn of Sedgemoor Witch attacks. Alright. You have a 2-1. Oh, you can copy Cling to Dust here, draw 2, and then my Snapcaster Mage will actually be live to do something? That's cool. That actually worked out very well for me. Unless my opponent's other card they drew is like Flusterstorm. Okay. So now the question is, like, how do I want to play this Snapcaster Mage? Like, I can just unearth and get back another Sedgemoor Witch. Or I can just, like, feed the Swarm, kill their Plague Engineer. crash in for 3, maybe more realistically 4 damage. I think the Feed the Swarm is good. I think 1 Witch is good enough here. Note, this has Menace, so the Seagate Stormcaller can't actually block it. Alright. Spellseeker is neat. Oh, Unearth. Unearth is cool tech. Opponent's deck is kind of similar to my own. Got a weird elaborate dance going on here. Alright. Now what? I have my opponent's Cling to Dust to think about. If I just attack all in, my opponent can trade bodies with me. I think I just chill. Because if I trade, board for board here, my opponent has Cling to Dust and I have a Swamp. I think I'll just pass here. The attacks start to become favorable if I draw a single removal spell. It's possible I should just play the Swamp here because of Chain of Smog. Oh, that's very good. Village Rights. Jeez. Now I have to play around to draw 2. Put another Witch into play. Everything that I draw gain me 2 life. Probably. This again will put me in the sort of situations where my attacks can be more favorable. Okay, it just resolved. Alright, now do I want to attack? I can opt to try and trade board for board again, where I have a Sedgemoor Witch left over and my opponent has nothing. I don't hate that. I don't know how many unearths my opponent has, though. Yeah, and if I get in for 2 damage, then my Sedgemoor Witches can't be removed easily. Fatal Push for my opponent is complicated, though. Alright, let's do it. My opponent's deck might have a better endgame than my deck, so I should probably... Yeah, that's fine. Okay, yeah. So it's the Fatal Push. But I've put them to 3 life, which means they can't remove this Sedgemoor Witch via traditional things, so I still think this is okay. Like, they have to be able to double block it. This is definitely scary, though. Alright, so I'm about to get wrathed. This is very good. I have no idea what this is. Like a Venser? No? It's Valor ability? Oh, I see. You just want to stay alive for 1 turn. Hmm. Counter it? Still have 2 cards in graveyard. I can still counter this. I really just want to close the game right now. Counter this. Because I'm still good to pay for Mystical Dispute or Flusterstorm. Yeah. Whew. What a game to open up on. I think this opening hand is a little bit below average. I'm going to go ahead and keep it. We have a Brainstorm to kind of smooth things out. I have a large creature, and I have some degree of utility. I also think just about any non-land draw is fine here. Maybe not that one. So we're probably playing against lands. We could be playing against some sort of Punishing Maverick deck as well. Or we could be playing against one of the various Elvish Reclaimer style decks. That's fine. I'm going to try to Brainstorm on my turn, get deeper, and find some sort of Fatal Push effect for that. Yeah, or like actual Fatal Push. That's good too. Let's throw back the Underground Sea. One land, assuming that I will draw another at some point. I think that's fine. I also could have thrown back the Flusterstorm there. I don't particularly expect the Flusterstorm is going to be good. But, like, there are some situations where having that Flusterstorm stops me from getting blown out by a crop rotation, for example. Oh, wow. I think I'm okay with just Baleful Strix. I could also just, like, YOLO Gurmag Angler into play, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That actually might just be my best line this turn. Yeah, actually, I like that. Like, conceptually, I'm a control deck, but sometimes you just need to put a Reality Smasher size threat into play and whack your opponent with it 4 times. The thing that I don't like here is that if my opponent casts an instant this turn, I'm kind of naked to it. Alright. Now I feel like I'm in an okay spot. All right, let's just ponder. I don't think I need to brainstorm. I don't think I'm looking for any of that. The land's okay, but I don't want two of the other cards. Okay, missing a land drop. Yeah, I think I want to hold up Fluster. I think I have a 5/5 in play. I just want to counter a crop rotation or equivalent if I can. I now also have Force of Will. Uh, sorry, Force of Negation for a Life from the Loam style effect. 7? 7/14. That opponent can't fetch. Oh, there's Punishing Fire to think about. No Punishing Fire. Now we wait. And I think I'm just going to hold up all my mana here. Do I Force of Negation that? I haven't played any other spells here. And I can Fluster if they have another. Now, somewhat unfortunately, I thought about brainstorming end of turn. Anyway, finishing the thought. Now, somewhat unfortunately, I have 7 damage and I don't have the possibility of the 8th this turn because I wasn't holding up Snapcaster anymore. I think I go ahead and play a Strix. That's a flying blocker for Merit Lodge-based reasons. Okay, crop rotation. So, Flusterstorm, not countering it guaranteed yet. And Brainstorm, though, and make that happen. Go ahead and do that. I don't think I need this. Okay, good stuff. All right, so we are playing against lands or maybe something slightly lands adjacent. I think I want these cards for sure. Triumph is fine, and Surgical Extraction and Feed the Swarm are also fine. I think my Flusterstorms, even though they were good here, I think a lot of times my opponent will just be able to play around those by playing patiently. How do I feel about Unearth? Not stellar. It'll do some stuff, but I don't know that it'll do fantastic stuff. So that gets me these cards in. And like all this stuff is just fine. The issue with the most recent builds of lands is that Valakut Exploration is just so good at making you not graveyard focused, so Surgical Extraction is less of a silver bullet than it used to be. That said, I don't think Eliminate is particularly good. I'm comfortable with going down those for these, and Feed the Swarm answers the enchantments. I think I'll trim one Snapcaster for one of those, and I don't know. Maybe since Feed the Swarm covers the role that that thing covers, I can keep in that last Snapcaster and have my configuration look like this. Another thing I could do is just board in Mindbreak Trap as a 4-mana counter spell or something like Life from the Loam or Punishing Fire. That's not crazy either. I'm going to try the deck in this configuration and see how it feels. All right. This is an okay opening hand. I have to ponder for more land, which is not ideal, but I think I'd keep the Surgical Extraction based hand here. Fire this off. I want to fire off cantrips frequently for Gurmag Angler based reasons. So this is all fine. I am very much on a real clock from Field of the Dead, though. I don't mean that in terms of like damage immediately, but like there's there's like an end game deadline that has been thrown down. Okay, I can either handle this by surgically extracting the life from the loam, or by forcing this. I think I surgically extract the life from the loam. And give my opponent that one card. Because I need to answer Valakut Explorations. I'm not going to mess around with timing here. I'm going to pay the life for this. And I suppose I need to screenshot this. Surgical Extraction on the Moto side client doesn't allow you to know what cards are in your opponent's hand. Alright. Couple of Pyroblasts, Sylvan Library, 2 Tireless Trackers to worry about. I have a Choke that I'll need to play around. Cool. I can just pass the turn there. Alright, that's a choke. Opponent has one more of those in deck. I probably pitch the Snapcaster Mage here. And Force of Will that. Keep the Force of Negation because it's more hard castable. If I play Witch, it just gets Punishing Fired currently. I need a blue card. Or I can play it out, let it die, trade the damage, and then play Gurmag Angler next turn. Don't think I love that. I think I'll just pass here. Like, permanently answering a punishing fire sounds great. All right. Valakut exploration answered. Four cards in graveyard. I can just Gurmag Angler here. My opponent has a crop rotation, which could find a Maze of Ith, but then I can start going for Sedgemoor Witch strats afterwards. I think this is fine. Yep. That's fine. Now I do need mana here rather badly. I think once I have a black mana, I'm totally fine. But for now, it's the awkward waiting game. I do also probably need to start floating mana. All right, not good. Yeah, now the presence of the second Rashadan port means I need to start floating mana. That one's fine. All right. Now I'm stuck. I am no longer the beatdown. I'm on the defensive. I also just like don't have great answers to a pile of zombie tokens other than my own pile of tokens. And I'm having trouble getting a creature in play in the first place. Classic. Yep. Uh, I'm slowly falling behind here. Block-based reasons. I'm just gonna stop doing this properly. Or there are blue cards in this deck. That a second maze? That's a second maze. Fortunate. Yeah, I think my opponent has recognized that they are at the pivot point where they can just attack in with the zombies. I block one. They don't even have to lose one. I think I'm just dead. None of this deals with a zombie horde. Like, I can play a Baleful Strix trade with no zombies because my opponent uses Maze of Ith twice. Um, I think I just missed land drops for too many turns in a row here. And I can't really pivot into being the aggressor with all these zombies and this stuff here. I could try to Sedgemoor Witch, play a bunch of pests, but I don't think that keeps up with my zombies. I'm just going to go ahead and throw in the towel here. I have no real answer to those zombies. I don't have like a Dead of Winter or anything. I could Plague Engineer and dampen their ability, but I think I'm just looking to not get stuck this game. Let's go ahead and run it back. Would like to play first. This is fine. We've got 2 lands, maybe a bit more. Got answers to an early Merit Lodge. I've got answers to an early enchantment that matters. I don't want Force of Will. Thunder's fine. It's not exciting. It's fine. I'm gonna have to go ahead and top that. Like, I would much prefer a natural land so that I can just play Strix on 2. You don't always get what you want. Black land? Not black land. I can just kill the Elvish Reclaimer before it gets to activate, but I have to Underground Sea in order to do that. I think I will do that. It's just very awkward for me if I get Wastelanded. But I don't think you're supposed to let your opponent untap with that thing if you can avoid it. I'm going to play this one out over Feed the Swarm, because Feed the Swarm can answer a Valakut Exploration, which is one of the cards that I really care about in the matchup. Yep. Great. Now I can Ponder first, which I will do. Yeah, I'm good with the land here. All right. So now, even if I get ported, I can still play a Witch next turn. If I don't get ported, I can double Baleful Strix if that's something that I want to do. Alright. That's quite good. Alright, Witch or double Strix? With no cantrips in hand, I think double Strix is better. It also just gives me the ability to draw into something that can answer the Tireless Tracker, although that did not happen. Alright, I've probably kept the Tireless Tracker from crashing in the immediate future, but, like, the damage from Tireless Tracker is not what I'm worried about in this matchup. It's the card draw. Alright. Opponent has access to another Grove. Not great for me. Alright, there's a stage. Well, a little awkward, but it's not bad. think I'm not going to go for chip damage with Strix. I want to have 2 of these back so that if my opponent has Punishing Fire, they'll do something about blocking. Thought I yielded to that already. Yeah. Alright, I can Snapcaster kill the Tireless Tracker. I probably have to do so with Feed the Swarm, though, because if my opponent... Well, how... No, Crop Rotation for Dryad Arbor is not likely. I'm gonna go with the Edict. It's possible I was supposed to Sedgemoor Witch first and just set myself up to close the game out faster. Sure. Yeah. So now my opponent's clues can do some work. I have my opponent on a 4-ish turn clock, but don't know if that's really all that likely to actually come to fruition. Fine. There's a world where I'm supposed to just surgically extract like a Valakut Exploration here. Just because that card is so terrifying in terms of ending the game with an Exploration in play already. I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have my opponent on a 2-turn clock. There's also a world where I just get rid of like a Thespian Stage here and then don't lose to a Dark Depths combo. Yeah, because I don't think I'm going to be able to surgically extract a Punishing Fire anyway. Nice. Alright, so my opponent has Loam and Mox Diamond remaining in hand. I have 2 Punishing Fires as the big things that I care about here. Alright. My opponent does have a decent number of draws to get to assorted things that they care about. But this is the big turn where it matters. After this turn, I can, at least in theory, hold up a Force of Will. I also think that I'm far enough along in terms of mana development that I'm not going to just lose to a Grove of the Burn Willows that my opponent, or a Punishing Fire that my opponent finds. Although that's closer than I thought it would be. Alright, so I have 5 damage this turn. I have so many good hits if I brainstorm. Back to basics, for example. Oh, Cling to Dust is insane. And play a new Sedgemoor Witch, and then Cling to Dust the Punishing Fire that's in Graveyard. I think I'm good with that. Alright, that should eliminate a lot of easy outs. I guess there's still technically some Field of the Dead based shenanigans where my opponent could generate a billion blockers. Opponent gets a few redraws between the Clue tokens and Sheltered Thicket. A Maze of Ithyn Yard. Got blockers on handle. My opponent does not have a Glacial Chasm. I can't produce a Merit Lodge. Yeah. Woo! Good game. Okay, I think this opening hand is borderline. So my theoretical turn 2 play is Baleful Strix off of Island Swamp, which is fine, but that means I can't pitch it to this Force of Negation. And if I have to Force of Negation something, I can't play Sedgemoor Witch or Gurmag Angler in a reasonable fashion. I'm going to still keep this hand, but like I do have reservations about it. I just kind of like this hand versus Delver. Like I have 2 basic lands. I have a thing that can trade with a Delver or a Sprite Dragon, and I have another removal spell on top of that, as well as Endgame Gas. I like the mix of cards that I have, with the exception of the Force of Negation, which I just like don't think fits very well into the plan that I've got going on here. But we'll see how it turns out. All right, land go. All right, Bayou's a bit uncommon these days. Maybe some sort of depths deck. Blue card. Blue card would be great. That's a blue card. Fabric? Oh, yeah, you don't get that. Don't even need to think about that. Just I am the control deck in this game as of right now. More owls. And when you're the control deck, if you can stop a Sylvan Library, you do. It's very possible my opponent isn't Maverick, but Like, signs are pointing toward. Ho 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 ho! The cure. Yeah, it is a shame your creature dies to fatal push though. Attacks. Menace means that the attacks are just fine to do. Again, Menace putting in some work here. I think I'll just play a new Strix and hold up Fatal Push. It's very possible that I could get away with playing another Witch, though. But the cost of being wrong is half my life total. So, in case you're not familiar with this combo, my opponent will play some things like False Cure. Well, gonna kill that now then. Anyway, they'll play some things like False Cure that will oh, allow them to sort of like invert life gain and life loss, and then they're gonna place a bunch of cards that make me gain life, and I'll lose the life instead. Basically, I want bonus removal spells here. Um, Fencer, Feed the Swarm, Liliana's Triumph are all fine. Plague Engineer can kill Bobs and Death Touch away something else. Brazen Borrowers, totally fine too. I don't need the Cling to Dust. Probably don't need Unearth. If I'm bringing in 2 creatures, I can probably board 1 creature out. Probably a Witch. And then I can maybe shave on Preordains. Could also go down 1 Snapcaster. Split the difference. 1 Snapcaster, 1 Preordain. Relatively speaking, I do have a pretty crazy pile of removal already. Plus Flusterstorms for some of the False Cure type stuff. Actually, if I'm leaving the Flusterstorms in, do I cut a Gurmag instead? I don't know. Gurmag's been really good this league so far. I could also just not. I could go down on Flusters because in some cases, if I counter their instance, like it doesn't really do anything. Like countering the False Cure itself is nice, but if they just have one of the life gain creatures in play, and then they, Reverent Silence me or something like that, flustering that doesn't do me any good. Yeah, maybe Fluster's not great, especially on the draw. Yeah, let's try something like this. And is totally fine. Not exciting, but fine. Like, I don't think I get to pitch something that makes its land drops consistently and has effectively 2 removal spells and Force of Will as a safety net. Yeah, you can have that. I don't even think I'm going to Fatal Push that. I know I always bolt the bird, but I think in this matchup I care very specifically about the things that can hit me for 10 plus life in a turn. and not so much about a bird of paradise. Force, be able to brainstorm later. Now, if my opponent only has one land, it's a different story. Now I'll Fatal Push this bird. Because then I gain, a different sort of advantage. That's fine. I will go ahead and brainstorm here in case I want to do something else on my main phase. Am I happy with all these cards? I can bounce a critter. Okay, what if I play Underground Sea this turn? And I have 1, 2, next turn 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if I brainstorm. Yeah, I can put like Gurmag Angler on top of my library, keep all these cards, and then play Gurmag Angler next turn after playing a Brainstorm. That all sounds great. Bury Brazen Borrower 2 down. Yeah, I like this well enough. Things can get a little like weird if I were to randomly get Surgical or something like that. I just let them Thoughtseize me. Because I'm fine with the way the top of my library is ordered. And that card would still go to graveyard for Gurmag Angler based reasons. Yeah, I think I just let this resolve. I kind of played around this in advance. This means that I no longer have the ability to bounce a creature, but like, hey, I have a big. I don't think I'm gonna like play around a choke or anything like that. I think like if that sort of thing happens, it happens. I'll leave Fatal Push as the one thing in my graveyard for Snapcaster Mage. Yeah, cool. Suppose technically I should not have played that out until after I played the Baleful Strix, but pretty unlikely to matter. So false, like my opponent's stuck on lands here, but False Cure is a deck that like does really require a good amount of mana because most of the cool stuff that it's doing starts at 2, not at 1. Like the False Cure. Yeah, all right. So my opponent is just cycling that for a new card here. The False Cure, the Bobs, the what is it, Kabu Predator. So many of those things start at 2. Sylvan Library as well. It has okay turn 1 plays because you do have things like Thoughtseize to bridge you to that mid game. All right. Do I want to Strix ahead of time? I don't think so. I'll just go and make my attack in, and we'll see what happens. I don't know if my Gurmag Angler is just going to get Swords to Plowshare or what, but I think if I try to cantrip off Baleful Strix, if my opponent has a removal spell, they just fire it off now anyway. Yeah. That's fine. I don't know exactly what I'm looking for. Ponder's okay. Ponder's probably better than a random card. Go ahead and top that. I'd really just like another threat. I have a way to answer a creature. Force of Will is not my ideal. Especially since Feed the Swarm is a sorcery. Fine. My opponent's still not hitting their land drops, so I just whack them for 2. Oh, this is insane. Just probably literal best card in my deck to draw. Now I kill Bob, crash in for 2, put my opponent to 8. Have most of that in damage next turn. Sedgemoor Witch becomes much harder to answer. I'm also not expecting a Wrath effect out of my opponent's deck. I'm not expecting something like a Toxic Deluge. And Sedgemoor Witch is also effectively going to be unblockable. Okay. Do I play second Sedgemoor Witch or do I hold up Force of Will? I think I hold up Force of Will. My opponent can't play that many cards, so might as well stop them. There is still this tiny bit of fear in me. Where my opponent just, like, rattles off 5 free spells and I die. This thing does trample. I respect my opponent giving me the fear. GG's. Alright, it's been 3 rounds. We haven't played against Delver, so I figure we're paired against Delver this round, so I kept my hand with 2 Fatal Pushes. I have nothing I really want to ponder for right now. I'm just going to lead on basic Swamp and pass the turn here. It makes my potential ponder worse next turn if I don't... Ooh. Dallas me? Alright, we'll Fatal Push that eventually. I can't Fatal Push it immediately. Anyway, finishing the thought, it makes my Fatal Push... Or sorry, my Ponder worse next turn because I can't go like Island Fetch and get maximum value out of the Ponder, but it allows me to Fatal Push on 1 if that's something that I need to do. Guess we're Strix on this turn. Not the best against Rabble Master because the Rabble Master can choose not to attack and I'll just take 2 damage anyway. Maybe more. But I already have my lands versus like a Blood Moon, which is good. Or Magus of the Moon. Well, apparently I need to restart Magic Online at some point in the not too distant future. I'm in a little bit of lag. Okay. Do I have time to Sedgemoor Witch and take 4 here so that I can start making pests? Or do I just want to be able to pull Strix? Sedgemoor Witch is so good. I'm gonna go ahead and flip this into play. Like, it represents so much life gain over the course of this game. And it can also just block a goblin token anyway. I mean, that's pretty good against what I've got going on. But I'm not really multi-spelling easily right now anyway. Alright, I will just pass the turn here. I think I can take out this Goblin Rabblemaster and then be in a totally fine position. His brother is here. Oh, that means that this Goblin Rabblemaster has to attack this turn. Oh, I wonder if my opponent actually should have played that. That's actually quite interesting. Yeah. Now I block this. I block this. Okay. You go to damage. I'll go to my end step. Blow up this Goblin Rabblemaster now. There's now 2 cards in graveyard. So Drown in the Lock has some degree of real text now. Is Sedgemoor Witch attacking? I don't know if Sedgemoor Witch is attacking yet. Turn's awkward because I want to put another card into the graveyard. I don't really want to kill the Mags of the Moon because that bumps my opponent into Karn mana territory and like Fireflux Squad territory, which they're not to yet. Holding up Drown in the Lock stops Chalice of the Void though. Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna pass the turn. Planeswalker. Can't really answer that via Drown in the Lock, so that's just gonna happen. Yeah, timing's very awkward here. I can't really time this to get a pest. I need Fatal Push to leave play. Sorry, I need my Witch to leave play for Fatal Push. Alright. We'll see how many goblins my opponent leaves back. Left back 2, which is probably wise. Take that damage. Is that true? Yeah, I'll take that damage, because it could allow me to potentially double removal spell and kill their planeswalker. Alright, so I'll blow up the Magus, which notably turns on my Fatal Pushes a little bit easier in the future, because I can actually get Revolt. Now I can Drown in the Lock, kill that token, kill the planeswalker. Alright, so this is the big turn where I can get, like, Karned or equivalent. Like, my opponent has a Karn or Fireflux squad that was in their hand that they couldn't cast before, now that's online. Yep. Specifically because of Magus of the Moon, I might want to consider fetching now. Let's do some quick math. I'm going to take 6, more likely 7 this turn, go to 3. If I fetch, I can't just chump block Fireflux Squad anymore and be okay. Alright, let's not fetch. Woohoo, that's bad. I have to brainstorm here. Ponder is not going to do enough. I can bounce a Fireflux Squad, take 1, and die. Alright. Next game. We were not far away from stabilizing that game. I think if I got to 6 mana and could cast 2 spells a turn and just cash in those cantrips for other cards, I would have been fine. Alright, I would like Venser. I would like Brazen Borrower. I would like Plague Engineers. I probably need both of these cards. Liliana's Triumph is awkward, though, against the token producers, so maybe not that one. Maybe look to board in these cards. Flusterstorm, quite bad in the matchup. Same with Cling to Dust. Beyond that, if I can eliminate some 1-drops, that's probably good. So like some of the Unearth, Preordained type stuff is probably next to go. I'm gonna go one of each, and then I think I'm gonna reboot Magic Online. Okay, I rebooted and I had to re-sideboard because my sideboarding didn't keep the first time, but I think I'm okay. This is a hand that is not objectively good against anything, but it's not really bad against stuff either. This one lets me, like, preordain into a new card. I have a Baleful Strix to trade with a creature, a fail. Oh, that's very good. We can get rid of the Brainstorm here. Keep this Plague Engineer. Yeah, I feel pretty good. Now is a question of like, do I just want to play basic swamp this turn and Baleful Strix, or do I want another island or another swamp? I don't have that many blue cards. I think I'm just going to play the Strix here. Just cycle that now. Nice. Get Chalice here. Yeah, Chalice is fine. Like, it's obviously good. Alright, so my hand is a lot of do-nothings. I have a some number of outs to Chalice. Feels like Bone Crusher Giant, unfortunately. Alright, we getting got by, like, Bone Crusher Giant into Planeswalker? Yeah. Alright, hopefully we draw, like, a Brazen Borrower or a Venser, or just a Garmag Angler would be fine, too. Sure. Plans also acceptable. Baleful Strix is going to save me 2 or 3 points of life each turn. But, like, the beatdowns are coming. That Bone Crusher Giant is just going to come out eventually. Oh yeah, we're dead here. I am going to fetch to thin. I think I get, like, exactly 1 draw step here. To spin this game around before it's just unrecoverable. Yep. Yeah, so we're taking so much damage this turn that I am not going to come back, unfortunately. I'm going to go ahead and throw in the towel here. GG's, opponent. Alright, round 5. I'm going to keep a hand that's probably better against a combo deck than a non-combo deck. Like, we have Flusterstorm, Snapcaster, Flusterstorm, plus Force of Will. I think I want to play a basic here. This is just Blue-Red Delver. I don't want to get wasted. I specifically want to play fetch lands to fuel Gurmag Angler. I think I will very aggressively trade Flusterstorm for a cantrip here, just to put a card in the graveyard. Not 100% sure, but I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and aggressively nab that. Not what once assembled the Flusterstorm plus Witch this league, which is a little disappointing. Blue-green. Could be looking at a show and tell deck. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can just tap out for Garmag Angler next turn as is. Played a lot of 3 mana Garmag Anglers. Make it cheaper off of Brainstorm. But I don't know exactly where my opponent is on, like, the control versus combo spectrum yet. Fire this off. I'm fine with pitching. Oh, wow. These cards are good. Send back a land. No. Am I fine redrawing that land? Do I want land 4? I probably want land 4. Yeah, I think I want land 4. I think I'm going to go ahead and redraw that land. Alright, now the question is, do I want to leave up multiple counterspells this turn without pitching? I don't think so. I think I want to get my clock into play. Just pay the other two. Probably just pay the other two. Weird because like there's days to think about, but there's also Snapcaster Flusterstorm to think about. Junk that? Probably junk that. Means I only have one counter available for my turn, but like that either turns into another counter or a important combo piece. Show and tell plus Veil of Summer is scary. Black. So are we like a Lurin then? That's just a value intuition? And I've just got the read wrong? Hmm. This is also just like not a snap Spellseeker. It's just finding a Brainstorm. All in all, just a little strange. Okay, so I have two different counter spells available to me, but not simultaneously. My hope is to use a Force of Negation this turn, followed by Snapcaster Force of Negation the next turn. I don't think I can counter this Brainstorm. Like, there's this dream where I just, like, junk that. And then I keep my opponent stranded on stuff, but is spooky. That's very good against what I have right now, fortunately. I have a bunch of things like Fatal Push in the deck. Not disastrous or anything, but I wanted to be clocking my opponent just very hard here. Flusterstorm not exactly looking the best right now. Snapcaster Mage not great either. I need a cantrip. I keep Swamp for Brainstorm. I already have Snapcaster Force of Negation. I might need to work towards like actual factual Snapcaster Force of Will if I just keep drawing lands. I could sit there for 5 minutes and think about that decision, but I think the ability to be able to Force of Will, say an Uro or something that comes down, is pretty huge. I think we're buckling on up for a grind in this last round. Don't know what. I don't have a good read on what my opponent has. Like, it feels like maybe they have some combo pieces and they either can't or don't want to go for it. I don't know. Nope. Here we go. Yep. Also, my opponent could just be a, like, hard control deck. Human's a great name there for Snapcaster Mage. Although, if I'm being honest, I'm not sure if I would have named Human or Pest in their shoes. Fatal Push, Snapcaster, Fatal Push. Use a turn. An awkward turn because it gives them value. I guess I get the Plague Engineer first. It's worth 5 damage to do it this way. Rather than do it slightly more patiently. Where I leave up casting Force of Negation. Well, alright. That occurs. Still have more basics. I guess I need more islands than swamps in theory. Yeah, it is looking more and more like my opponent is just a hard bug control deck. Because we have so many basics, this Prismatic Vista is still a card. So I have Snapcaster Mage plus Force of Will as a thing that I can do. My opponent plays a big Haymaker. But I'd like to use these Force of Negations if I can. Oh wow, Wasteland is in there. The slog begins. I mean, yeah, let's go. And play this with like kind of 1.5 removal spells available. depending on when my opponent does it. I'm so tempted to just counter this. My opponent is doing so much nothing. Not gonna do it. Because if my opponent can't play very many things at once, I just have this stream of counter spells. And I don't want to like counter that brainstorm and then my opponent has double removal spell in hand or something like that. That would very much be a feel bad. Notably, I don't have Snapcaster Force of Will up this turn. I guess Uro would be bad news this turn. That's okay. Menace means that I can still attack in. Oh, I wonder if my opponent is a Chain of Smog deck. That could explain some of the play patterns here. Where, like, my opponent isn't taking actions when I expect them to take actions. Alright, so we're going to see some sort of removal spell on Sedgemoor Witch. Alright, so I let the ward resolve. Then I'll go ahead and Force of Negation this. This is targeting the Force of Negation. I think this is a time for me to Snapcaster Flusterstorm, this Drown in the Lock, and just counter the ever-loving bejesus out of it. And cash in on my Pest tokens. Alright, Flusterstorm, Drown in the Lock. 1. Sedgemoor Witch. Oh, geez. Alright, so 2, 3, that counters that. Oh shit, I don't want one at Force of Negation. I can't undo that. Okay. Let's put 1 here. 1 here. 1 here. 1 here. 1 here. How do I have so many of these? 1 here. Am I lagging or what? How do I do this? Well, hopefully my opponent's stuff is countered. Okay. Well, cool. All right. After all of that, I do get to ponder. These cards are fine. All right. Because of Menace, I don't need to worry about Baleful Strix blocking. Sure, that's fine. Basically, I care about like a sweeper or an Uro, and I have a sweeper taken care of via Force of Negation. I am glad we did the Flusterstorm Witch thing at least once, though. Although I wish I had done it once more in an earlier round, because my opponent had another piece of interaction. How I did that Flusterstorm actually mattered. I believe I already beat an Uro. I can go up to 9. Snapcaster Mage gets blocks 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 incoming damage, assuming this is blocked. I haven't gotten the concession yet, though. Oh, there it is. All right. So, am I to assume that I am playing against a pseudo mirror? I don't know whether or not my opponent has Uro. I don't know whether or not they have Chain of Smog combo. I am leaning towards them not being something like Allurin or Food Chain, based on like the amount of interaction that I saw. I have Sylvan Library to think about. I have like an opposing Sedgemoor Witch to think about. I want Plague Engineers for sure. I think I just want another Brazen Borrower as an aggressive threat. I want Surgical if they have Uro, and I don't want Surgical if they don't have Uro. I think I trim one Fatal Push, trim one Flusterstorm, and trim one Preordain, and use that as my starting point for sideboarding. And then if my opponent does have Uro, I'll bring in Surgical Extractions for game 3. I don't know whether or not I am supposed to just like play around them having Uro. Like 2 weeks ago, I would have just snap brought in the Surgicals because I would have been 100% sure that they had them, and now I'm not so sure anymore. I think this opening hand is kind of mediocre, but I am going to keep it. Like, I am making my land drops, which is the most important thing in a control mirror. I have the ability to sculpt my hand at least a little bit. Although I don't know if I want to fire off the Ponder yet. I think I will. Like, I essentially want a threat. These aren't threats. That's also not a threat. Please don't like Sylvan Library me. Uh, I don't think I get to force this. Card is insane. But I basically have the ability to counter one thing right now. And I don't have any pressure. I don't think my one thing gets to be Carpet of Flowers. I'll lose Force of Negation here in all likelihood. I think I'm just going to lose if I Brainstorm lock myself. I'm just going to go Swamp Pass here. I am on the slippery slope towards losing this game. However, I would like to drag this game on for as long as is humanly possible. See if my opponent has Uro. Because that's going to be the defining feature of how I sideboard for the next game. That's the danger of like, oh, that's not surprising. There was that intuition in game one. Oh, maybe the intuition makes me think they have Uro. I was so convinced on them being show and tell at the time that I just kind of forgot about that. Yikes. I don't think I get to keep that Brainstorm when the two cards below it are just bad. Yeah, I'm in trouble here. Yeah, okay, there's Uro. And Jitte. Wow, that's unexpected. I can get to see a lot of my opponent's deck based on them, like, dredging Life from the Loam. The issue is that, like, Life from the Loam is going to keep bringing back Uro. That's green, green, blue, blue for Uro. I guess Jitte is just straight up a sideboard card. Oh, wow. Not going for the Uro, just continuing to make land drops. Oh, I see. They're going to make the land drop and then cast Uro that way. That's reasonable. That lets them dredge Life from the Loam off of the Uro. I'd be brainstorming in response to the Uro. I'm going to try to find a fetch land. If I find a fetch land, I can just Fatal Push Uro, and if I don't find a fetch land, I have to Force a Will it. Yikes. There's some world where I try to force a negation Life from the Loam to stop this cycle, but I don't know that stopping the Life from the Loam really stops the problem. I just need, like, a witch this turn. Thank you. Now I can attempt to go wide of Uro. Scavenging Ooze, okay. Maybe I should cut one Snapcaster Mage for the next game. Could also play cages if I get rid of my snapcasters. So that's something to think about. Or can't counter that. Alright. I think the writing's on the wall for this one. My opportunity to beat Uro was that witch. Just counter Uro, do the thing. And then, draw a couple of cantrips in a row the following turn. Yup. Have I seen enough? I've probably seen enough. Like, every card I see here is information that is somewhat valuable. Well, alright. I mean, if I'm gonna rip another threat, we can pretend. Bird. I mean, I guess, technically I can, counter Uro this turn with Force of Will. Go into another answer for it. And question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. I don't know. Draw Witch. Witch Menace. Do the thing. Could also deck our opponent. They're down to 37 cards in library. Hold on. Do I just drown in the locket? Do I give them a card so that I can try to just destroy it? They still have enough cards in the graveyard where I can do that. No, I'm not going to do that. The reason being that, I am the beatdown right now. I think if this Uro gains 3 life, I just can't win. The fact that it's coming back every turn right now because of, Life from the Loam plus fetch land is rough. Fatal Push isn't in graveyard. Alright. Well, I guess first, let's see if I get my 2 damage in. Don't have enough land for Snapcaster Force of Negation. I guess I'm just going to Snapcaster Ponder and try to work out something that does something. I guess the other thing that I'm doing right now is running down my opponent's clock. Witch? I don't think I can take Witch plus one of these lands. So if I want to start pivoting to I am going to win based on the clock plan, then maybe just Witch and jump block Uro with Pests forever is a reasonable plan. Yeah, I'm probably not supposed to concede this game. Sorry, YouTube viewers. Daddy needs some chests. The old donation queue has not been kind. Need those sweet, sweet play points. Yeah, let's resolve to do some Death Touch Uro stalling shenanigans. Wonder if I just like save this cantrip for a witch. Like it's a bad ponder this turn. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Not quite as dead as I thought I was. Maybe speaking to the deck's strengths. Yeah, so that whole decking my opponent thing that I was talking about, that may be more reasonable than I thought. Yeah, I wonder if my opponent was supposed to just let the Uro die and then, like, recast its second main. Eliminate. Oh, Gurmag Angler. Gurmag Angler is cool as hell. Yeah, these cards are fine. So which Unearth is in my sideboard currently, right? No, Unearth is still in my deck. Okay, so leave Witch. All right. Ponder, Brainstorm, Force of Will, Preordain, Force of Will, Rex? Question mark. And I'll go to my opponent's upkeep, and I'll eliminate in upkeep. So I don't know, maybe I let them attack with it this turn. Makes my next turn better in some ways. Yeah, like if they don't attack with it, for example. So I don't know, I think they attack with it. Yeah, it feels like if I have an answer to Uro, I can take down the game easily, but I just have no permanent answer to Uro right now in my deck. I can still be attacking for 3 somewhat safely. That just dies. Yeah, more and more it's looking like timeout is my best path to victory because I can kill faster than my opponent can kill. And my decisions are also easier than my opponent's decisions. All right, Snapcaster eliminate. Let's go. Oh, pest control confirmed effective. How about we crack those chests? I'm feeling like we should crack those chests. Maybe they're lucky. 5 of them? Open all. Yeah, I want to open them all. 68 new items. All right, 60 play points. Not anything particularly good there. All right, so what's our conclusion on this deck? Honestly, it felt pretty good. Like I said in the intro, I was definitely worried about Uro as something that we were going to have trouble with, and the last game saw that we did have trouble with it. Although, like, damn it, we got there, we got through it. Um, but like we were starting to play towards timeout lines rather than like I'm gonna win this game line. When we managed to rip just enough removal spells off the top in a row to get there. I think I could have played tighter in a couple of places this league, but that's always going to be the case when you're streaming. I'm really happy with the change I made at the beginning of the league where I swapped out a uh, Gate to Phyrexia for a Brazen Borrower. I boarded in that Brazen Borrower a lot. This card did a lot of like theoretical heavy lifting. I don't know that we actually cast it that many times, but I wanted that effect very consistently. And like the ability to just like pivot into having one more aggressive creature is also nice as well. I like what's going on here. This is a good solid deck choice. I don't know that this option is a tier 1 option, but it's not that far removed from like, very, very competitive legacy decks right now. And I think we're going to see more and more of these Sedgemoor Witch shells in the not too distant future. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please hit the like button. That helps me out a lot. The YouTube metrics stuff matters more than you know as a casual viewers. And if you're really enjoying my content, consider supporting me in some other way. Have a great rest of the day.